The wait is over. It's time for the hottest sports talk show on the internet. In sports and entertainment, it's grown for Sports Talk with your host, Steve Johnson.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing today? It is a Monday, July 12th, and trying to see what is up on a Monday. I had a good day today. This rain going back and forth is just kind of weird how that's working out, but it is what it is. We have to deal with it down here in Atlanta. We could be on the West Coast where they are up in the 130s. I saw 130 degrees, and that was just crazy to me. I was like, really? 130? That's deep. So, hey, happy that we're here where we are. I know we came on yesterday, but something caught my eye earlier today, and I was looking on the Atlanta Bird Gang feed. Of course, we're in the Atlanta Bird Gang, and we're also on YouTube on Uncle Steve's Lounge. Don't forget to tell your friends to check in with us from time to time. I saw someone on the line on the page, and I'm sitting here trying to pull it up because I wanted to make sure that I got it right when I was talking about it. And it bothers me. It does bother me. So the post was from Jamie Riggs in the Atlanta Bird Gang. And this is what it says. It says, this group hates on our quarterback way too damn much. He's damn near the greatest Atlanta Falcon ever. But yet y'all still talk so much mess. Shaking my head. Support your team and all of its players for God's sake. Now, if y'all know me, we've been down this road before where we start talking about defending some of our players and defending them almost to a fault because they're Atlanta Falcons. And of course, listen, if you root for the Atlanta Falcons right now, you're rooting for Matt Ryan, whether you like it or not, whether you like him or not. That's just a fact. Matt Ryan is on the team. So if you want the Atlanta Falcons to achieve greatness, you better hope that Matt Ryan does well because Matt Ryan is your quarterback. So it's just crazy. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Rise up to you. 130 degrees is insane. That is just absolutely crazy. Folks, that global warming is no joke. And please, I hope y'all not taking it as a joke because we better start taking it. Antonio Davis, hope all is well. Salute to you always. Salute to you too, sir. Thank you for joining us today. So as I was reading Jamie's post, and I answered him, and I give the same answer that I give to you all the time when we start talking about, listen, it's not so much anti-Matt as it is that Matt is the quarterback. And I don't know how many times you have to knock this over people's head to make them understand. It's not personal. It's not like I'm going to sit here with a picket sign and go to the stadium and say, get rid of Matt. It's not that deep. But the quarterback represents your team. And I don't care what glowing stats you have, and I don't care how great a guy you are. If you're losing, the quarterback is the first person that they look at. There are very few teams in this league that you can go to and say, oh, that team is failing. The quarterback is an all-pro, but the team is failing. It doesn't work that way. And on top of that, Matt Ryan is the highest paid person on the team, which usually is the quarterback. But in this particular case, Matt Ryan has been the highest paid player on the Atlanta Falcons for the last, since that second contract after 2012. So scrutiny comes with that. And if you don't feel like, it's amazing to me that people think it's personal. It's not personal. If you don't win, they're gonna call you out. Bottom line, that's not personal. It is what it is. What's going on, brother Dre? Say, Steve, why is Mingo the lawyer throwing shade at the Falcons? Listen, let me tell you something. And I'm gonna get on that for a quick second. Yeah, that's his job. For anybody, if you deal with lawyer is paid to defend their defendant, and even at making himself look like he's just foolish, but he's being paid to defend his client. He has to defend his client. What do you think? The lawyer can't come out there and say, well, it kind of look like he's guilty, but I'm going to try to defend him anyway. That's not what a lawyer does. A lawyer is being paid highly to defend his client. Of course, he's going to throw shade at the Falcons. Of course he is. But you got to ignore that. If he was a Falcons lawyer, he was a lawyer for the Falcons, he would be ignoring this. Of course he's going to say that. Nobody's paying that attention. Brother Miles, how you doing? Said, will you explain how you feel honestly about Mr. Mingo? And I did yesterday, Miles. I know you didn't see me. Congratulations on you last week with the 4th of July thing. I know I saw you participated in that. I didn't get a chance to type back with you. Yeah, that's like I was saying to other people, Miles. I mean, it is what it is, man. The NFL has an image, as most sports. It's not just the NFL, it's the NBA. It's any organization, any conglomerate, any Fortune 500 person, any school district, a family. If there is something that's controversial, if there is something that's going to put a stain on your brand / family or anything like that, your first instinct is to protect that. The Atlanta Falcons organization has a lot of things on their plate. And right now, they don't have time to defend alleged reports of someone misleading, doing things with children. So personally, as I said yesterday, pray for the young man's family and hope everybody pulls through and give support to the guy. I read a little bit of it. Again, you're going to hear so many things come out. I almost don't want to get into it too much because I don't know enough aside of reports that are coming out, and I don't want to get out here and misspeak on something that I'm not that sure about. But I do know this: it was the best thing for the organization. They'll be fine. Let the lawyer scream all he wants to. That's his job, to protect his client. Antonio says people continue to go overboard with it. I don't agree with Matt Ryan still being here, but I will support him and the team no matter what. And that was the basis of what my question was, Antonio. And I came on tonight after seeing the particular post that we were talking about. Falcon players that you have to defend to most other fan bases or our own. So this is a perfect example. The guy who wrote on this, Mr. Riggs, and I'm glad that he's in the Atlanta Bird Gang, and hopefully he joins Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube and subscribe to that as well. But I understand we root for the Atlanta Falcons. Our interest is the Atlanta Falcons winning. My interest in the Atlanta Falcons goes way beyond probably before Matt Ryan was born. So I can speak to that. When you start talking about people throwing shade at him, we're losing. We've been losing for the last 3 years. 30 times in the last 3 years, we walked off the field losing. That's not good. Matt Ryan happens to be the quarterback, and I've said this several times. The quarterback of an NFL team is probably the most polarizing sports athlete in North America. I know soccer is a whole different animal in Europe and other places around there, but in North America, the most polarizing position in North American sports is the quarterback. And because he has that position, he has to take the good with the bad. Bottom line. So for those who think that it's a hating on, it's not hating. It is people being frustrated. Frustrated that we keep having the same results, frustrated that we can't win. So that's what it is, more than just a matter of they hate Matt Ryan. People don't hate Matt Ryan. I actually like Matt Ryan. I tell you, you could do better. You could do worse than Matt Ryan. But am I concerned that my team, under the leadership of Matt Ryan on the field, has not been able to consistently win in the last 3 years? Absolutely. It seems like it's a daily talk about, things we talk about in the group. It's a daily thing that Falcon fans talk about all the time. But the truth is, that's the bottom line. He doesn't win over the last 3 years. And if you really want to break it down, he had a 2-year blip. It was a big blip. Super Bowl / second year, you won a playoff game. We won 3 playoff games in 2 years. That's a big deal. It really is. That's huge. But at the same time, you take away those 2 years, over an 8-year span, we haven't been that good. 5 losing seasons, 1 8-8, and 2 winning seasons. And if you are so strong about defending Matt Ryan, then, I implore you to look beyond the numbers you keep throwing at folks. Go look at the Los Angeles Chargers game last year. Go look at opportunities during the Chicago Bears game last year. Go look at a couple of the opportunities in the New Orleans Saints game last year, where Matt wasn't on his game. And he's the leader, folks. There's no denying that. He's the quarterback, and he's getting paid handsomely. So all of this defense, I'm sorry, I just can't buy into it, y'all. What's going on, brother Tidy? How you doing? Say average record over the last 3 seasons is 6-10. That ain't gonna cut it, Steve. The GM has been fired. The head coach has been fired. So now the quarterback will be focused on heavy. And not only that, Tidy, it gets even heavier because number 11 left too. Listen, let's not be fooled. There were whispers about Julio and his ability to still play right before he was traded. I know it was an upswell of folks that were, no, Julio's great. When he was on the sideline limping, or even before that, there were people talking. There were people whispering. They were calling in to me every week. They were talking about it every week. Julio was getting scrutinized just as much as Matt Ryan. Guess what? Julio was the second highest paid player on the Atlanta Falcons. It's fair. It comes with the territory. Your expectations are high. We can't keep living like this is 2016, folks. We can't keep doing that. Kyle Shanahan is not coming back. we can't. We can't go back now. We have to look forward. And that's one of the reasons why earlier this year, when there was the big, we want Matt to stay. We want Matt to stay. Folks, we knew the financial situation. The people who wanted a new quarterback, we understand the financial ramifications. Don't play us dumb. We got it. We understood why they had to restructure. But let me tell you something. They didn't restructure that contract because Matt Ryan was great. They restructured that contract because we had to. And if Julio would have fallen in line, he would still be here. But he didn't want to. There was not a decision where they sat down in the office and they probably said, boy, that Matt Ryan is fire. Let's keep him. Because if that would have, they waited to the very last minute. If you remember, the guys got hired, early February, late January, early February. So when they got hired, they did not commit to Matt Ryan. Folks have amnesia about that first month. They were trying to get Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith to budge. Nobody gave a glowing, Matt's our guy. Julio's our guy. Nobody committed to that. Then they had to commit once they did the restructure. Of course, Matt's staying. But there was still a groundswell of fans that believed that Matt Ryan, albeit a better than average quarterback, may not be the future. That's why we wanted to infuse some new folks. And dude, that's not Felipe Franks. It's not. For those of you that think Felipe Franks is going to miraculously end up, unless we have some catastrophic injuries to Matt Ryan and AJ McCarron, Felipe Franks will be absolutely stunned to be on the practice squad. And if I end up biting my word, eating my words on that, then hey, so be it. He was not brought in here to be a savior. He was not brought in here to be the heir apparent. The heir apparent had an opportunity to be picked somewhere in the first 4 picks. We chose tight end. Okay, Lisa, we do have some people in here that troll Matt Ryan. It goes beyond constructive criticism and frustration. Seems weird coming from fans of the team. Well, the thing is, I think there are some of those fans that live in misery. There's probably not a lot we could do about that. We can count them. We can count them on it. We know who they are. We know when they post, and we know what their feelings are. Those folks live in misery. They have nothing else to do but drown their sorrows in misery. We're not talking about them. I'm not concerned about them because those people live in a space that I've never been in, where they want negativity around them all the time. I'm defending the constructive criticism folks. The folks who are saying, yes, Matt, we have you. Dude, I have so many number 2 things, right? Matter of fact, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going, breaking the fourth wall. Over here, I have an autograph number 2. You can't see it, but autograph number 2 jersey. Does that look like somebody that hates Matt Ryan? Sorry, now I got to do this back again. Sorry. Does that look like somebody that hates Matt Ryan? It's not about hating the person. It's about expectations. If I'm not doing my job at work and the supervisor comes up to me and says, hey, you need to step your game up. People are dependent on you. Then I got to step my game up. And I can't go to but I threw for 4,000 yards, but the supervisor said that's not helping us get the job done. And we paying you $35 million a year. Lisa says Kyle Shanahan mad at him all over again, talking about he should have changed some saved some plays in the Super Bowl. Dumb. Tell us something we don't know. Yeah, listen, Kyle, now that Kyle has kind of tasted a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter twice in the Super Bowl, he's had an opportunity to probably go back and rethink. And yeah, hey, it is what it is. As I tell everybody, until they invent the DeLorean that me and Michael J. Fox can go back in and change things, it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. Toddy, odd to say this about a 14-year vet, but is it a prove-it year for Ryan in Atlanta in 2023? Of course it is. Folks, and Toddy, I know you look at these things, and Lisa, I'm sure you looked at it too. When you start talking about that salary cap increase that we have next year, the one thing I want to look at is what is the June 1st designation after next year. Yes, we have a $40+ million hit. But our salary cap goes up about $20+ million from what we have. And there's not a guarantee that the Falcons are going to dip into what we have now in cap space. They can actually transfer that over to next year. Who's to say the Falcons don't throw a Hail Mary and say, you know what, Matt, I don't know what we're going to do in the future, but it might not be with you. So maybe there's a chance that we do go in a different direction. And folks, there are going to be quarterbacks out there. I know that. There will be quarterbacks. Every year we go up and say, oh, this quarterback squad coming up next year is not good. There'll be some quarterbacks. Trust me. What's going on, Armani? How you doing, my brother? Toddy says, same people building up Frank's the same one building up Antlin and Ben Kirk. They don't seem to understand those guys are just camp arms for the most part. And folks, even if they and listen, every time Ben Kirk I'm trying to see, did Ben Kirk actually make an active roster when he was here? I'm not sure if he did. He was on the practice squad a couple of times. And this just to show you, when you're on the practice squad, if somebody thinks you're that good, they can pick. Other teams can pick you off the practice squad and sign you. There's no guarantee that just because you're on our practice squad, you have to stay here. If somebody thinks you're that good, as some folks were thinking, give Ben Kirk a try. And I'm like, really? Yeah, that's all Felipe Franks is. And trust me, if AJ McCarron doesn't cut it, they'll be looking on the waiver wire for somebody to come in here and back up Matt this year. But this is a prove-it year for Matt. Big time. I'm on to say, got the man cave looking good. I'm coming to the house next time I'm in Atlanta. Hey, brother, just let me know, man. Just let me know. We trying to do some things in here. I appreciate it. Until Shanahan checks his ego, he won't win a Super Bowl. That Lisa says that ego cost us a ring. Absolutely. Brother Anthony, how you doing? Until Shanahan does right by ATL, he won't succeed. Toddy, Ben Kirk is a great follow on Twitter, though. And did he go to Green Bay? Did he get signed by Green Bay? When I think he got signed by Green Bay. I could be wrong, but he got signed. Yeah, the Ben Kirk Chronicles are humorous at best. But I'm gonna get back to what we were talking about. What we were talking about is the Falcon player you've had to defend the most to other fan bases. And look, I don't think it takes a genius to figure out who the number one person is on that list, and that's Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, again, like him, love him, hate him, whatever. Matt Ryan is that guy that I get this so much from other fans. Why are y'all still holding on to Matt Ryan? Why is he still on the team? Now, when you ask me that question between 2016 and 2018, I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, dude just was an MVP. He did some good stuff, and he did, I could defend him. It's hard to defend him now. It really is. And folks, I go back again, 4,000 yards is only 260 yards a game. It's not like it's back in the 14-game season when you were throwing for 4,000 yards, what Dan Fouts was doing year after year after year. It doesn't take much. So those empty stats mean nothing to me. So Matt Ryan is one of those guys that you have to constantly defend when you start talking about Atlanta Atlanta fan bases as far as players. Yeah, he's cheesehead. Okay, I thought he got signed by Green Bay. Armani and Dan Quinn for letting him do it, talking about Kyle Shanahan. Listen, that whole learning experience, and we were probably too youthful, not only with players, but with coaching too at that time. It's easy for Kyle Shanahan to say that stuff now. It's easy for him to say now because that was his first taste of true lights, camera action on me. I'm kind of surprised he didn't close the deal against Kansas City because you thought he would have learned. But as I'm sure Falcon fans gloated in that as far as that was. Ariane says, your honest opinion, do you think McCarron can compete with Matt to take his starting job? No. McCarron was brought in here in case of injury. A.J. McCarron started a few games with Cincinnati, but nah, not really. Armani, let another fan base say something about Matt. I'm on them. See, that's the thing. So that's why I go back to the premise of the question, Armani, which is right. Because no matter what, even internally in our groups and in our sections, we're gonna internalize and we're gonna, I want to say beat each other up, but we're gonna share information between each other saying, no, Matt needs to do this, no, Matt needs to do that. But if anybody else, let a New Orleans Saints fan come in here with that mess. Oh, no. No, you're not going to talk about Matt. You're not going to talk about him. Now, we can talk about him, but you're not going to talk about him. No, sir. No, sir. We're not going to do that. So, Matt Ryan is number one. I think the obvious number two would have to be Michael Vick. When you start talking about Michael Vick, you know, the very first thing, of course, everybody talks about the dogs and things of that nature and stuff like that. But there was also, during the height of Michael Vick, before all the legal things came up, Mike Vick can't win. You can't win with a mobile quarterback. You can't do this with a mobile quarterback. He can run for 1,000 yards, but he'll never win. A mobile quarterback will never win a Super Bowl. A mobile quarterback will never be successful in the playoffs. Mike Vick almost proved him wrong in 2004 when we were a stone's throw away from beating Philly, even though Philly dominated that game. I can't really say that. Philly actually dominated us during that game. Actually, that might have been the worst championship game we ever played. But aside of that game, Mike Vick did well. And we had to defend. Y'all can't be, but you can't win with a running quarterback. Fast forward to 2021. Yes, you can. Matter of fact, if you look now, and I'm glad the narrative has changed to athletic quarterback more than running quarterback. And I'm also glad from a color barrier standpoint, we're kind of crossing over with that. Look, Aaron Rodgers is as athletic as they get. Tom Brady with gray hairs going down his back is athletic as he get for 43 years old. Josh Allen is just somebody that, listen, I'm not a Buffalo fan by any means, but he's somebody that I think that cat is going to win a couple before it's all said and done. If he gets some experience, I think he's the next best guy, the next guy after Mahomes. I really think he is. If he gets his game mature, I'm glad he is in the AFC. But Mike Vick took a lot of flack, and we had to defend him quite a bit when you start talking about him. David, what's going on, brother? It's good to see you, man. I've had to defend Matt at work to my family and in this group last year. I could not defend some of the bonehead decisions, terrible throws, and even worse reads, but he's the quarterback of my team, and I've got to ride with him. David, you share the sentiments of, yes, I'm going to put it in here, I'll say it, of real Atlanta Falcon fans. We sat here. If you watched on draft night, I did not hide. Some of my admin brothers did not hide the fact that we were looking forward to starting the future with somebody new. It didn't happen, but I said after that draft, that no matter what happens, Matt Ryan is my quarterback going forward. I reserve the right to critique. I reserve the right to get upset when he makes a bonehead play. I reserve the right to talk amongst Falcon fans, to criticize. But at the same time, again, just like Armani said, dude, come from another fan base, I'll come for you if you're coming for Matt. Because that's our quarterback. And in order for us to succeed, folks, I'm sorry, you can't have it any other way. You can't be like Denver last year, not have a quarterback and try to win. See how that worked out for him. You have got to have, Matt Ryan has got to be successful in order for us to win. So I am 100% behind Matt. Don't get this narrative fooled. Don't get fooled by it. I am 100% team Matt this year while he's our quarterback. And when the next guy comes, I'll be 100% whoever that guy is. If A.J. McCarron comes in the game, I'll be 100% A.J. McCarron. That's how it goes. That's how fanhood goes. Orion, in saying that Matt goes down, do you think our season will be over? Probably. I think AJ can come manage, but we're in such a change. When you're in a season where you're changing the system, you're changing the coaches, you're changing a lot of personnel, you're changing an attitude. You're switching eras. The last thing you need is your starting quarterback to go down. You would almost have better hope if it was a younger quarterback that went down. So you say, at least I have a little bit left. If Matt goes down, you got to start thinking about the absolute future next year and the year after. Because getting hurt at 36 plus is different than getting hurt at 23. They had a question on, I think it was 92.9 on their Facebook thing saying the most catastrophic injury in Atlanta sports history in reference to Acuna getting hurt, and I wish him well. That young man has done nothing but be the best player, arguably, in baseball aside of that cat down there in the Angels, 33 home runs. And I mentioned Mike Vick. The Mike Vick injury in 2003, coming off of the 9-6-1 season where we shocked the world and beat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay against Brett Favre, beat them at their own game, went in there. That was a catastrophic injury. So when I started thinking about stuff like that, that's where I was going. I'm on the New Orleans fans say something about, man, we fighting. That's what you're supposed to. Armani, man, Vick, if Vick playing, especially at home game, if you're at the game, you better not leave your seat. You gotta pee. You better hold that pee. Oh Lord, until the defense come out. Hey man, must see TV before they actually had must see TV. Might be. Lisa, I will always say I will ride with Matt as long as he's our quarterback. I want him to succeed so that our team can succeed. And that's, I mean, I don't even know if it's any simpler than that. It's not a pom-pom contest to see who roots for Matt the most. I will tell you this. I was a Julio fan, but it's not like I fanned out for Julio. I fanned out for this team. Now, if Julio does something great, I'll probably overblow it. If Matt Ryan throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and runs for 1, of course I'm going to overblow it. That's my quarterback. But then if he also, wets the bed, then I got to call him out too. It's only fair. And that's not hate. That's just keeping it up. Yeah. Toddy, I'm trying to stay optimistic, Steve, but I'm so concerned about our running game this year. I just don't see it happening with our running back core this year. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Mike Davis, who just, I guess, recently got married. Congratulations to him. My man just slipped my mind. The Pittsburgh running back. And that's horrible that he slipped in my mind. Quadre Allison. And whoever these guys are, the undrafted free agents that are gonna challenge. Now, running backs might have a better chance of doing some things as an undrafted guy. They might. I'm not saying I'm not going to root for these guys or whatever, but it scares me. To Tidy's point, in order for us to win, folks, we got to have a running game. Part of the reason, in Matt Ryan's defense, which we're talking about defending our players, part of the reason Matt Ryan is on his behind the whole time because he throws the ball 45 to 50 times because we can't run. The optimism going into 2020 was that Todd Gurley would hopefully provide a little bit of running attack for us, but it did not. That didn't work out well. We have not had a true running game since 2016. 2017, we struggled. 2018, we struggled. 2019, we struggled. Last year, we struggled. Folks, I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's going to take this head coach to do something different in order for us to get our running game going. I hope Mike Davis runs for 1,200 yards, 4 yards a carry. I hope he does. But if he doesn't, it's going to be some problems. Orion, they say, why not bring someone in that can get in the driver's seat and take the wheel instead of getting someone that is only a passenger? I don't understand. Makes sense. John Harris says Jeff George, and I'm sure you're talking about a Falcon player that you had to defend to most other fan bases. Yeah, Jeff George. Yeah. And listen, y'all, say what you want about Jeff George. You know, at Indianapolis, I know he unceremoniously, left there and ended up coming in here. Jeff George put up the numbers, man. It just none of his teammates seemed to like him. Jeff George used to put up numbers. Jeff George could throw that ball. And when he was on the other team, you kind of feared him a little bit. Now, he was interception prone one of those years or a couple of those years. But Jeff George was the truth, talent-wise. Jeff George was seemed to be a little bit screwy. And when I say screwy, meaning he may not have got along with others well. And that was his downfall. Jeff George could throw the ball. No doubt. And the year we went to the playoffs that Bobby Hebert had to bail us out, it was a lot of Falcons that wanted Bobby Hebert to start that playoff game against Green Bay instead of Jeff George. And we ended up going with Jeff George instead. So, Orion, then why not bring – go back to David. And Matt possibly getting hurt, pray that doesn't happen, was my issue with not picking his successor early in the draft. He's taken a lot of punishment and it's got to catch up with him sometime or another. Yeah, it's one of those situations where I know they went through the whole interview where Terry Fontenot denied the rebuilding. Listen, he's not going to tell a fan base that you're rebuilding. Of course not. You have a 13, 14-year veteran at quarterback. You have a wide receiver group that's, pretty experienced now. They're not young. They're young in age, but they got some experience. You have an offensive line, say what you want to say. Yeah, they have some holes, but the edges are pretty experienced now. Got to figure out the middle of the lineup, center and guards. But you can't sit out there in front of a microphone and say, yeah, we're rebuilding. You do better with that with a new quarterback. But you can't say that with a 13-year-old quarterback. John says Andre Rison. Yeah, Andre Rison. That's another one. I have his jersey over there on the side when we get a chance. I guess I'm giving y'all sight views today. So turn around and give you my Andre Rison jersey is over there. If you see Andre Rison on the side, see Andre, Grady Jarrett, Jones. So that's what we got going on over there. I'll fix this camera. Y'all gonna think I'm crazy. But yeah, Andre Rison, that was another guy. And he was going through his little things. I know the celebrity couple thing probably didn't work out that well for him. So Tidy as Devontae's official agent, I've had to defend my client in the house to non-Falcon fans numerous times. Devontae, the story of Devonta Freeman, all kidding aside, and I know I mess with you a lot about Devonta, was a very good story. I like Devonta coming out of Florida State. They don't win the national championship if not for him. He was the man in that national championship game. When we drafted him, I thought it was good. Remember, we got the overrated Steven Jackson at that time, who was supposed to be some semblance of a replacement for Michael Turner, but that didn't pan out, and Devonta ended up getting his chance. But remember, when the next year they drafted Tevin Coleman, and Tevin Coleman was it number round 2, second round or third round, whatever round he was, but he was supposed to be the starting running back. And Devonta got that opportunity, and with that opportunity, he ran with it. Now, in retrospect, giving Devonta his due, because yes, that year that he got his opportunity, he took the ball, ran with it, and went into the next year and was the guy, and him and Tevin did their things, with Devonta actually ended up being the go-to guy a little bit more than Tevin. He took advantage of that. I think the problem was maybe we kind of, I don't know, maybe we kind of overhyped him a little too much. I think the idea of switching back and forth with him and Tevin was great. And I think when you paid him that money, you almost made it impossible not to give him the lion's share of the ball. So that was his downfall. I love Devonta. I wish we could find somebody in the draft that was like him that would bring up. John says the lack of running game is because of not using a fullback, and the O-line wasn't moving nobody, which is kind of interesting because I like the little Keith Smith guy last year. I thought he was pretty good, and he actually did some things as well. So I was kind of surprised that they didn't, do more things with the fullback. Now, I don't know. I don't think Arthur used the fullback with Derrick Henry a lot last year, did he? I don't think he did. So we'll see how that ends up working out. Well, George got his rear end tenderized in Indy before he got here. They had no O-line there, and he got beat to death. He was PTSD shell shocked when he got here. But he still did a good job when he got here, though. If you remember, he put up some numbers. He was pretty good when he got here, and we ended up winning one year. He did pretty good. I mean, give him credit where credit is due. Toddy, here's a surprise name. I remember having to defend Deion Sanders a lot. Many saw him as a pompous, egotistical player who was all about himself and wasn't committed to football totally because he was playing baseball at the same time. Prime caught a good bit of flack as a Falcon. His legend grew here after he left. Well, that's what you call Deion Sanders is the equivalent to rap music then and now. In 1990, rap music was just getting able to, I mean, we were still in the Jazzy Jeff days, and, still had the New York scene was still dominating. Eric B. and Rakim and everybody from the North was pretty much doing their thing. And it was just hitting mainstream. And mainstream was pushing back because it was different. Mainstream was pushing back because it looked different. It sounded different. It looked threatening. It looked like it was going to mess up your brand. It looked like it was something that you couldn't embrace. Prime was in the same situation. Think about that press conference. All that gold that made Mr. T jealous. All the glitz, all the glamour, the high stepping, the dance, all those things that people weren't ready for. And now you get to the league, you got to have a dance. Matter of fact, they changed the rules so much that they allow you 15 seconds to dance on the field and celebrate and do those things. So you're right. Deion was one of those folks that you definitely had to defend because people weren't ready for that. I think about Stuart Scott all the time on ESPN. God rest his soul, when he died. And I remember when he came on, and I used to watch some of I watched some of the things when he died, and I liked how some of the broadcasters were truthful, the Chris Bermans and the Dan Patricks, when they came back, and they were saying Stewart brought the urban vernacular to ESPN, CNN News, to that. He brought that. See, Fred Hickman was on CNN, but Fred Hickman played it straight. Stewart came in there and said, I'm going to do it my way. And they were threatened by that at first. Now, everybody, black, white, I see Asian folks, I see Indian folks hosting. Everybody's got a little catchphrase. Everybody's got a little swag with them. Everybody does that. That's what Prime was. I know I went a long way around that, but that's exactly what I think for that. I'm gonna put up another name real quick, and I haven't seen y'all say it in the frame. Keith Brooking, and he's one of those names that probably goes back to the first Super Bowl when he was a rookie during that year, and hometown guy, East Coweta, Georgia Tech, Atlanta Falcons. And there was so much hype around Keith Brooking and what he was supposed to be when he got here. And that first year, he did well, of course, playing aside the hammer. You'll do that. But he was going to be the heir apparent to him. And a lot of folks weren't ready to see Keith Brooking get in that position. And I remember Keith made a couple of Pro Bowls, give him credit. I don't think he ever made any All-Pro teams, but he made a couple of Pro Bowls and was, considered a pretty standard linebacker. He wasn't great. He wasn't Ray Lewis. He wasn't, historical, but he was okay. And I just remember a lot of friends. Oh, Keith Brooking, he is so garbage. Keith Brooking made a lot of tackles. Now, they might be 4 yards down the field. But Keith Brooking made a lot of tackles on this team when he was here. But that's one of the Falcons that in my time that I've had to defend on several occasions. There are a lot of people that did not like Mr. Brooking when he was here. Oh man, I'm missing a couple of things. Anthony says I had to defend Julio a lot when it came to top receiver over the years. And it's kind of interesting because I think that was one of those things. Once Julio kind of got in here and got entrenched, I think a lot of people pretty much accepted that he was going to be one of the great ones. That NFC Championship game, I think, really put people on notice. His rookie year, he was all right, but that championship game against Frisco, how he basically just used them cats, and that was pretty good. Lisa said, I saw Eric B. and Rakim at the Tabernacle a few years ago. I'm going to tell you what, that might be one of the best old school folks when you start thinking about Eric B. as president and Paid in Full. That whole first album was really good. So that is crazy. Let's see. You got John Harris says, you are so right about Dion, because when he came, I remember him begging Marion Campbell to put him on offense, but he said, I don't know what to do with him. He's so talented. And I actually got into a fight at the old stadium. So I challenged a man about Dion. Yeah, hey, that comes with it. Tidy said, do you remember Fred Hitman? Okay, I didn't see that at first. But yeah, Fred Hitman was very good. I actually met Fred Hitman one time, a long time ago. He's a good dude. And Nick Charles. But they played it straight. Hitman was a little hip, but he wasn't Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott was the rap generation hip. The very urban, gonna put our language into the telecast hip. That guy. And he was very good from that. John says Brooking, the best chase down, track down linebacker in NFL. Oh man, yeah. I mean, he was though. He was, but I did defend him. But give him credit. He had a couple of good years here, folks. Let's not play like he didn't. Another one that we had to defend when he was here was Chris Miller. And the reason why Chris Miller makes this list is really for one reason and one reason only. For those folks that always go back, and I hate these people because these are the folks that weren't Atlanta Falcon fans, and they just go back and look at the history and say, my favorite question, why didn't the Falcons keep Brett Favre? Why did they hold on to Chris Miller when Brett Favre was so much better? Why did they end up doing that? And I always laugh at those folks because I say to myself, well, maybe you weren't here when Chris Miller was here and Brett Favre was behind him on the bench. Brett Favre, as almost similar to the Mike Vick questions, where Mike Vick will tell you himself, I didn't handle those situations well. If you go back to any stories with Brett Favre, and Brett Favre talks about his days with the Atlanta Falcons, he will tell you himself that he was not the greatest teammate on that team. He was not the greatest employer on that team. He would go out and get drunk with the fellas and not come up and not show up for practice and would not do things that he was supposed to do. He will tell you that himself. So Chris Miller becomes the other side of that because Chris Miller actually had a really good season during the Too Legit to Quit year. Chris Miller was actually putting it down that year. When you think about Michael Haynes, you thinking about Andre Rison, even Prime getting a little bit of offensive love on those teams. Chris Miller was not the worst quarterback in the world. Now, he didn't have longevity, but at that particular time, you did have to look back and say, well, why didn't the Falcons decide to move on and just keep Brett Favre? There was no doubt about his talent. Everyone told you about it. Jerry Glanville told you about it. Deion Sanders told you about it. I'm sure Brett Favre will tell you about it. They had all the talent in the world. They even let him come in the game a couple of times. But when it came down to it, he wasn't the greatest guy in the locker room at that time. Not in a bad way of the guys didn't like him, in the way that he was getting drunk. He wasn't showing up. Go look at any story. Go look at a football life with Brett Favre. Go pull up something. You'll see it come from his mouth. You won't have to go look for it. But Chris Miller is one of those guys I have to defend every time. Chris Miller was the quarterback of those teams. And Chris Miller did a pretty good job. So I always defend that when I look at that. David says we were coming off a playoff appearance when we traded Brett along with Brett's other issues. And that's exactly what I'm saying. They didn't. Another case of if we can go back into the Wayback Machine and go back and fix those things, we could. But we can't. At the time, Brett Favre was not doing what he was supposed to do. And there you go. We had to change that. I see my brother coming in here. My brother Joe coming in here asking about it. Joe DXL, DXL.com. Check that out for me. I'm going to put it down on your thing. DXL.com. They got plenty. But yeah, so Chris Miller, one of the guys to defend. The last guy I had on the list is somebody who just left, and that's brother Desmond Trufant. Now, at the time we got Trufant was supposed to be one of the best, one of the best defensive backs coming out of the draft. I know Trufant really had 2 good years. He finished up well right before he left. And the year before the Super Bowl, when we were 8-8, he actually had a decent year. Actually, him and Alford had a pretty good year that year. The year coming off, the year of the 8-8, the 5-0 start that year, they actually played pretty good. But Desmond never really became that shutdown corner that we expected him to be. And Alford was drafted that same draft. I say this to this day, and I don't think I have a problem saying it. I think Alford was the better cornerback. I know he didn't. I know he didn't exactly light it up when he went to Arizona, but I think out of the two, if you were to weigh out to me, both things. Alford's only problem was he kept holding, but Alford, rarely did you see Alford get burnt. If Alford did anything, he was guilty of having a little bit too much hold. He was the pass interference man. But I'm telling you, I used to defend Trufant, but I was probably one of his biggest critics because I just don't think he ever lived up to the draft choice that we made him. I needed him to be more than just a good cornerback. I needed him to be a great cornerback. He never really reached greatness. And if you think about the other cornerbacks, when you think about Alford on the other side of him and stuff, I mean, Alford used to end up getting the speed guys. Alford did a pretty good job. And the Super Bowl year, I think Jalen Collins came in and finished up that year, remember? Desmond was nowhere to be found during that Super Bowl run. That was Jalen Collins. And unfortunately, Robert Alford on several of those interference plays. John Harris says Ray Buchanan. I never really had Ray Buchanan was actually pretty good, was here. And matter of fact, I'm pretty sure he was all pro when he was here. I know he was all pro when he was in Indy, but he had a couple of good years here. Ray Buchanan was no joke. I never really had to defend him, except when you had the little dog collar around at the Super Bowl time. Other than that, I think Ray Buchanan was one of those guys too. Toddy says Vic Beasley. Lord have mercy. Yeah, Vic Beasley. And another, probably similar to your guy Freeman, Vick Beasley was a flash. That year in 2016, if you go back, Vick Beasley will probably go back and say, man, I did all that. I led the league in sacks. Really? Vick Beasley is going to go down in NFL history. He led the league in sacks in 2016. I think he won by half a sack over Von Miller. He led the league in sacks. And that 1 year was all he could get. He was, listen, second year of the contract, you get 16 sacks, and you can't even make it to your next contract. And really, in retrospect, probably shouldn't have got the 5th-year option if we knew then what we know now. And now he's bouncing around the league, probably deciding whether he wants to even stay in. I don't even know if he's on a roster this year. Is he with the Raiders? I don't even know if he's on a roster. I'd have to look that up and see. But him and Pat McKinley. But yeah, Vick Beasley, give him credit. We don't do the things we do if Vick Beasley doesn't show up in 2016, folks. We don't. But at the same time, yeah, that was rough. Tidy, if Trufant could catch, his legacy would have been looked at different. Yeah. But at the end, now again, before we released him, he actually had a good year in 2019 when we finished the season 6-2 and did a decent job of that. I think that was the year we did that. And we finished the year somewhat strong. I think he had a decent year, but yeah, it's a lot of money. And I think we're still paying him, if I'm not mistaken. We're not looking at that. Isn't he one of the dead money situations where we're still paying him? Right now, he is a free agent. So, which probably means he's not going to play. And I hope he does. A lot of people told me he wanted to get into ministry, which is fine, man. There's nothing wrong with that. And I come close. It's not quite Kwame Brown, but when people say bust, bust don't lead the league in sacks. Bust just have bad years. And at number 6, wasn't he number 6 or number 8 coming out that year? Whatever he was, he's a top 10 pick. You're a top 10 pick defensive end. You got to give me double digits more than once. I'm very about the bust label. DeMarcus Russell, that qualifies as a bust. He didn't do anything. He got paid, but he didn't do anything. That's different. But yeah, Vick Beasley just waste, man. John says, oh man, if I could forget, how could I forget Bobby Butler, another Florida State product? And Bobby Butler was supposed to be the next guy. And I'm trying to remember who was on the flip side of Roland Lawrence at the time when they got Bobby, because Bobby was number 1 pick and was supposed to be the guy, and it never really worked out. I mean, he stayed on the team a couple of years, but he never really fit with the Atlanta Falcons and that incarnation of that was by the end of the Grits Blitz era, but he never panned out. Tidy says Ray Boo was a stud until they made him get off steroids. That's true too. He's a little dude, man. Ray was little. Tidy also says Caleb McGarry, sadly, very questionable pick. And you hate that because I know he had the health thing and whatever, but once he got over that, you start overlooking it. This is a big year for him too. I mean, because you got to start making decisions about him, because he comes up for a 5th-year option after next year. They probably won't cut him this year, but this might be making or breaking too. The mere fact that they got another tackle in the 3rd round, that they got a tackle, Yeah, that puts Caleb on notice. So yeah, and that's just it is what it is. Brandon says, yeah, Trufant. Thank you, Brandon. $5 million in dead money. That's the only thing I hate about the Trufant situation, which is very similar to the Devonta situation, where in Trufant's defense, at least for the most part, he stayed on the field. I know he got hurt the Super Bowl year, and then he tweaked something a little bit more. Devonta couldn't stay on the field those last couple of years, and brutally honest, that whole contract was a waste that he signed. So I just hated that it ended like the way for him. Trufant, I think the writing was on the wall for him as well. That's just a tough call. That's why now with these contracts, it's so hard. You have to determine the longevity of these players. You have to determine who is worth signing. And that's any sport. You start thinking about basketball. I know we're talking pretty soon about John Collins and what the expectation is for him long term. When you make those decisions, we also the Braves getting ready to come up on Freddie Freeman. You have to make a decision whether these guys are going to be worth the long time investment. We messed up with Devonta. I think we messed up with Trufant. I can't say we messed up with Beasley aside of the fifth-year option. You were rolling the dice. You definitely did. That was a big number you gave him. Was it $12.5 million? That's a big number for nothing. And he had an okay year that year. I think he had 6 sacks. I think 6, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. I think he had at least 6 sacks that year. And he played a little bit better. But not for 12.5. 12.5, you got to ball out. I started thinking, what's the little cat from South Carolina? They overhyped Clowney. Where is Clowney now? Clowney wants to get paid everywhere he goes. And Clowney didn't have better numbers than Vick Beasley. Don't believe me? Look it up. Number 1 overall pick. Number 1 overall pick didn't have more sacks than Vick Beasley. That ought to tell you. That comes close to bustable numbers, even though I think he had 1 year where he had 8 or 9. So, it is for that. But you have to make smart decisions. I think you're thinking about looking at Albert Pujols out in the Dodgers. The LA Angels signed him to. I mean, dude, if you're Albert Pujols, of course you got to take that contract. You'd be foolish not to. All that money, but the Angels gambled because they basically paid the last couple of years before he was traded. They were paying him $30+ million, and he wasn't. I mean, he was basically a pinch hitter. So today's sports, you have to balance those salaries. And I know right now there is nothing you can blame Terry Fontenot on for the financial situation this year. Right now, we have to pay with food stamps and coins we find in the middle of the sofa because we don't have the money. And until we find the money, you're probably not going to see the real direction the Falcons want to go. Dimitrov had the luxury. I know they were dealing with Mike Vick's contract at the time, but it didn't hamstring them that much. They were able to bring in Turner. They were able to bring in Malloy. They brought in a couple of other one-year guys to do what they do, similar to the one-year things we're doing now, but I think the quality of the players were a little bit better than they were back then. But Terry Fontenot is playing with nothing right now. We have nothing. So when you start talking about draft day pick, I think Terry Fontenot in his wildest fantasy wanted so bad to draft a quarterback. But for the health financially of the team, he had to make that decision. I bet you if I was a fly on the wall, he was probably trying everything in his power to see if there was some team that wanted to trade for Matt Ryan before the draft. Don't think so? Guarantee you he was trying. But nobody wanted to do that. He was probably looking at somebody like the Rams. Now, if I knew the Rams were going to give up some stuff like that, only the problem is you're getting Goff's inflated contract back. Texans would have been a good trade partner, but I know that wouldn't have balanced out. Ray says, damn, I missed out with this. Hey, I'm sorry, Ray. We do it every Sunday, man. I just popped in today just talking about it, man. Just talking about players we've had to defend over the years. So, Brandon says Falcon gave out some bad contracts for sure. We got $8 million in cap. Cap will pick back up. They had Trevor 1 and Pitts 2 on their board. Yeah, and though I believe that truly, and I know they did, I'm sure Pitts was number 1 on a lot of boards athletically and whatever. But if you're a new GM and you're coming into a situation where the team has lost 3 years in a row, this is not like a 1-year swoon where you're really struggling and you have to make a decision on your future of your quarterback. I think you would want to get somebody new. I go back and look at Philadelphia, who won the Super Bowl, obviously the year after we went, and we lost to them on the way to their Super Bowl. And I think about their fortunes. If you put their situation against ours, they had a quarterback who was all world 2017. All world. Signed him to a big contract, and 2 years later, had the guts enough to say he's not doing the job. Actually had the guts enough to bring in a quarterback in the second round to say, let's push him because he's not doing the job. I think here we were so in love, the Dimitroff era, where the loyalty to the athlete, which it should be loyalty. Don't get me wrong. You play for the team. You're playing for the Falcons. Of course, I'm going to be loyal to you. But at the same time, blindly loyal, where you're giving out contracts now that you can't afford to handle right now. By the time we're not going to have a clean slate on this team for at least 2 or 3 years. That's probably why they're not in a rush to redo Grady's contract. Why do you want to keep pushing money down the line? At this point, you might want to let that stuff play out so you can finally get to a point where you can get these books right. So, I'm not a capologist. I don't pretend to be. I don't study the numbers. I just look at the things I see on Spot Track and look at the other articles that I look at. But I think these guys are handcuffed. That being said, I'm hoping and praying that Matt Ryan can come through with a successful season. I really do. And so when you start talking about defending guys, yes, in this forum where we're talking amongst ourselves and talking amongst friends and talking amongst Falcons fans, for the most part, aside of trolls and other people, I'm going to give you what my thoughts are. If you see me outside this forum talking to somebody else, I'm going to act like Matt Ryan is the next coming to Tom Brady. Because I want my team to win. And in order for us to win, Matt Ryan has to be successful. Bottom line, no doubt about it. Ray Ellen said, it's a little different as I am in South Korea. I do my best to get on when you, Marcus, and Toddy are on. Brother, first of all, I'm assuming you're serving, man. Prayers to you, man. Y'all do your thing out there. One of our other brothers who pops in a lot, Frank Bledsoe, just came out there to Korea. And so look him up when he comes out there. Huge Falcon fan. We appreciate you popping on with us. Tidy, myself are usually on Sundays. I'm talking for Tidy, but I know he comes on Sundays. And of course, football season is coming up. So we'll be popping in. Myself, Tidy, Marcus, Nicholas, Brian, we'll all be putting our 2 cents in during the season. So please keep listening, man, and y'all stay safe over there, my brother. Do your thing, brother. Anytime you want to pop in, please come in. Brandon says, you don't think we can win with Ryan? I think we could. I think we can. I mean, listen, I haven't seen what Arthur Smith can do with this bunch. I've seen what he could do with Tennessee. We can't judge Tennessee. Matt Ryan is not Ryan Tannehill. I think Matt is better. Any running back we got is not Derrick Henry, which obviously he's better. Our offensive line is at Tennessee's offensive line, which is better. Our defense is at Tennessee's defense, which is better. So we can win with Matt Ryan, but you're going to have to give me a little time to kind of see what this thing looks like. Let's start off with a win at the beginning of the season. Then I can start to tell you how I feel about winning. Let me see how Matt looks. Listen, Matt is under the gun. Matt is under pressure. If you don't think for 1 minute Matt is listening, you don't think for 1 minute Matt is not hearing the whispers of, oh, I might be up out of here. Folks are upset that we didn't take a quarterback. He could tell you what he want to tell you. Folks, they know. They know. And he's making all this money. I'm willing to bet Matt is working harder than ever. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. It's not like I'm sitting here saying Matt is sitting around eating bonbons on the sofa, acting like, oh, it's just another year. No, Matt put in the work. He does. And we've seen him do well in the lights, in the bright lights. We just hadn't seen it in the last 3 years. And that concerns me. So do I think he can do it? I think he can. But I just am a show me person. You got to show me. John says Philly cut the wrong quarterback when they cut Foles and it got Peterson fired. Only Philly fans don't play. You're right about that. Yeah. Tidy, Grady didn't sound too committed to the Falcons this past offseason when asked. He might pull a Julio on us. It's kind of interesting, though, Tidy. My only thing about that is, and while, yeah, I get it, but they're kind of putting him front and center with the little podcast thing and stuff like that. I just don't see a disgruntled player wanting to rep the team that much harder in that sense, because it's not like they're forcing him to do that kind of stuff. These are things that link you with the franchise. These are the things that make you accessible to the fans and make the fans say, "Oh man, okay, that's the company dude right there." So if he was harboring any kind of ill will towards them, I just don't see him doing that on that platform. I don't. You could be right, but I don't see him doing that. I know I wouldn't. If I had any kind of doubt that this could possibly be my last year and I was that disgruntled, I'm not coming on a podcast show during my off season and talking to people every week. I'm not putting myself out like that, just like Julio did. That's probably why Julio didn't do things like that. But I understand what you're saying. But Brandon, to be fair, the Eagles organization started to kill Wentz's confidence. He didn't want to play there. Well, at the same time, too, Brandon, I think that Nick Foles run probably cut deep. Remember, Nick Foles did that twice. He ended up playing that playoff run, and then he played the next playoff run too. So his confidence was probably shot way before that. Philly organization actually made a pretty good decision to kind of hold on. They don't win the Super Bowl if they don't. I know he got hurt the first year, but as far as kind of making decisions at the end of the year, the next year, Nick Foles proved that he could do it. That's why they put him back in that same situation. Carson Wentz's confidence was probably shot after he got hurt. I don't blame him. Brother Ray says 23 years active duty Navy. Dude, we are proud of you, man. 8 years Army here, Desert Storm guy. So I feel you, my brother. John says, I will be at camp watching Ryan in this offense. I might get kicked out again if I see him messing up, bro. They probably got a sign out there for you. So you better be careful. Brandon says, I just want some coaching, competent coaching for once. That's what I'm looking forward to. Hopefully we can get it. My brother Ray said, we pretty much got a new young offensive line. I expect they're going to be pains, but we do expect Matt to be upright. But do we expect Matt to be upright? I know he has a tendency to hold on to the ball. We talked about that a little bit. I'm hoping that the change of coaches will change how we do things, right? The talent was evaluated by different people. You have a whole different coaching staff in here. The only problem I have is they can't bring some of the talent with them here. They have to coach what's available. And because we didn't have a lot of money to deal with, we didn't have a lot of salary cap, you're basically hamstrung with the guys you had last year and the 7 to 8 guys we got during the draft. That's it. So if they end up getting a winning season out of this, I don't care who, if somebody goes undefeated, Arthur gets coach of the year, Terry gets executive of the year. Because if you can get this team to a winning record, albeit in the playoffs as well, that's a great job. I just wonder how much of a push Felipe Franks will give Matt Ryan. We talked about this a little bit earlier before you got on, Ray. I honestly don't think listen, Felipe Franks, especially when he was in Florida, he had his opportunity. And I know he showed flashes and didn't do well. That's one of the reasons why he ended up in Arkansas, that he couldn't hold on to the job there. He's athletic. He's a big boy. And he can probably do some great things athletically. But as an undrafted free agent, I'm sorry. I probably can't get that excited about his prospects. He still had, I think his concern right now is to stay on the roster. If you want to get a goal, the goal is to catch A.J. McCarron. That should be his goal right now. Matt Ryan, that's a whole nother animal. But maybe Arthur Smith sees something in him. Maybe there's some kind of project. He says, hey, maybe I can develop this guy. I don't know. But if he's on the roster after the 3rd preseason game this year, which is the last one, they're only playing 3. If he's on the roster after the 3rd preseason game, I would call that an awesome win for Felipe Franks and his family. Tyler says, speaking of Julio, do you think the surprising cut and trade of his 2 best friends on the team, Roddy and Sanu, made him look at the Falcons differently? I vividly remember how disappointed he looked and sounded in the press conference when they asked him about the Sanu trade. That could be part of it. I think the only thing, though, when you talk about Julio and want your friends to be around, part of the reason your friends probably weren't going to be around because they were trying to set up the salary for you. And though I understand the Roddy situation might have been a little different, I think Roddy and Shanahan, if they could have coexisted, Roddy may have been with us in the Super Bowl, but I know we'll never know. But after seeing his Robin leave 2 times in a row, yeah, Julio might have been tired of that. He might have, but I'd look at it on the flip side to say, especially Sanu, getting rid of Sanu was probably one of the things that helped you set you up for your next contract. Calvin was drafted, so you had a few years of salary flexibility there, but Sanu was going to want to get paid. If Sanu stayed here, Sanu was going to want to get paid at least 2 more years. At least. So I do see that. I mean, those guys seem like they were a pretty tight-knit group when you start talking about the I know Harry Douglas talks fondly about Julio and Roddy and how they still keep up with each other and things of that nature. Not like he's close with Shannon Sharp, not that type of relationship, but but I'm sure Harry and Julio and Roddy and Sanu probably still have a pretty good connection. It's a good question. Brandon said, what are your expectations for Kyle Pitts this year? Low end, 70 catches, 900 yards. Because you gave up the most targeted wide receiver over the last, I think if I saw the number correctly, I think over the last 5 years. Well, it was the year before Michael Thomas. Whatever the year before Michael Thomas was, up till now, the most targeted wide receiver in the NFL. Somebody's going to have to take up some of those targets. Now, hopefully some of those targets will be taken up by run plays. But as far as most of the targets are concerned, Kyle Pitts, 70 catches, at least 900 yards. And I'll give him a rookie break. Give me 6 touchdowns. Give me 6. Anything more than that will be absolutely outstanding. And what do you think about Dean Pease running this defense? I like it. I like the fact that we're flexing a little bit on that 3-4. I like the fact that we're going to have Deion Jones in probably a position of rushing the quarterback, which I say again, I think that's one of his strengths, blitzing and going in and getting the quarterback. I think he has it seems like every time I see him do at least 1 out of every 3 plays, he finishes or disrupts things. I think that's something in his wheelhouse. If we can get these other linebackers on board and continue to put some pressure on in that direction, I think we're going to be fine. I think Dean Pease will end up making a big difference. Ray, I think Julio got tired of losing and went willing to rebuild. He wanted to win now. I don't think Tennessee was the right place to go, but hey, maybe Tennessee will have a losing season and we get a high second-round draft pick. I don't think they're going to have a losing season. I do think they're going to be a little bit better than last year. Maybe on the level of what they did 2 years ago when they went to the AFC Championship game against Kansas City. I think the only thing this year that's going to be a little bit different, and Julio probably has to realize it, it's probably a tougher road to the Super Bowl in the AFC than it is in the NFC. I think when you start looking at Buffalo and Kansas City and Baltimore, that's a much tougher road than you start talking about. You're talking about in the NFC, you're talking about Tampa Bay and probably whoever wins the NFC West. Other than that, there's really not a lot in the NFC. I think from a standpoint of wanting to win, Julio might have rolled the dice and stayed and had a better chance to get to the big game than he does going to Tennessee. You got to get through a already mad Kansas City team, a Buffalo team that's on the rise. They just, again, that's the team I look for. Everybody's saying Mahomes for the next 8 years. Buffalo looks nice. And if Stephon Diggs can emulate a little bit of what he did this year or last year. And if by some way Baltimore, who would have probably been my first pick for Julio to go to, Baltimore, if by any means that Lamar Jackson can kind of get that passing game where he needs to get it, I'm trying to tell you, the sky's the limit as far as he's concerned. That's really, the AFC is really loaded at the top between those 4 teams. One of those 4 teams is going to make it. And I'm not even talking about an improving Cleveland team. I think Cleveland's going to be the champs in the AFC North. I think Cleveland or Baltimore. Cleveland is talented. And Baker's not doing anything but getting better when you think about it. So I like that. So defending our Falcon players is one of those things that it comes with the territory, folks. So hopefully we can get better at it, because this year I'm trying to tell y'all we're gonna need it. We're gonna need some patience, and I think the biggest thing we need is a good start. We have not won a season opening game since 2000. Was it? Did we win in 2017? I don't think we won in 2017, did we? No, that was the Thursday night game in Philly. We lost that, right? Yeah, so we haven't won a season opening game in quite a while. So just to start the season with a win would be a nice start. Let's see if we can get that win against Philly. Brandon says Lamar can't pass for real, though, Steve. Teams are figuring him out. And that's my point. If he can get in, this is his 3rd year or 4th year? 4th year? If he can't figure that out, that's why you don't see a huge contract number. Listen, they're gonna re-sign him. But you might see those years not be as long. Because Lamar got to learn how to throw. Patrick knows how to throw. Josh is learning better how to throw. He's not quite there yet. But those guys are totally dynamic as well. And they have, to me, I think they have more upside, both of those teams. That's why with the Falcons, dude, it's not impossible for us to slip into that 7th spot. I just said everything negative about our quarterback and what he didn't do and how he didn't do it and why he didn't do it and what our defense can't do and all of that. And folks, it's not going to be, if we can hold our own, it's not going to be difficult to get that 7th spot. When you start thinking about the NFC East, where no team scares you, yes, even Dallas. When you start talking about our own division, the bugaboo of Breeze is not there anymore. And don't let the Taysom Hill stuff fool y'all last year. Their defense is still good. Carolina is in the same boat we are. They are no better, no worse. So maybe some of those bounces will come our way this year. I mean, it's you have to think about that. But Chicago made it with what? 8-8 record or 9-7. But they barely got in too. 7 teams, folks. That's all you got to do. Once you get in the tournament, once you get in, it's up to you. Do what you need to do. Folks, it is getting late. It is Monday night. I meant to get off here a little early. I meant to come on a little earlier, but I did not. Thank y'all for joining me today. I appreciate it. We're going to show off some more backgrounds later on, and we'll figure it out. Until then, unless we pop in later on this week, I'll definitely see y'all Sunday. And y'all have a great week. Be blessed. Take care.